gotta go fast. My name is Daidarius and welcome to the review of Sonic the Hedgehog. So Sonic the Hedgehog is yet again an attempt to make a great, or at least a decent, video game to movie adaptation. Now the story of Sonic the Hedgehog is actually very simple. So Sonic the Hedgehog grew up in a different dimension or world or universe or whatever you're gonna call it, but his power was too much sought after the inhabitants of that world, so he was sent to our world through one of those Sonic rings that you know so dearly from the video games. He then spends the next 10 years in a city called Green Hills, so there's an Easter egg there, until his powers is accidentally discovered by the government. So now he has to dive into a second dimension. Unfortunately, before he's able to dimension jumping, he loses his dimension jumping rings in San Francisco through a portal. So now him and the Lord Donut over here has to traverse through the US without getting caught by Dr. Robotnik, who is in their tails to actually find the source of this mysterious power that the government has discovered, so he can escape to this new dimension. That is very basically this movie's plot summed up. Now, before I dive into it, I need to do what every other reviewer on the planet has done with this movie and basically just praise the new looks of Sonic, because this is how they initially thought was a good idea to design Sonic. And I mean, and he looks like, I don't know, a fucking drunken cat who has been face raped by a bulldozer or something like that. This is nightmarish. This is haunting. This is not a good design. So the internet does what it always do and just bully an entire movie studio just so we can get it our way. And for the first time in history, or at least on this scale, the movie studio actually listened to us and then spent a lot of money, man hours, unfortunately for the visual effects artists. I believe they even went bankrupt. Is that correct? I don't know, it doesn't matter. But nonetheless, they threw a lot of money to redesign Sonic. Fortunately, it was still early in the VFX phase of the movie creation, so they hadn't created that many effects for the movie when the first trailer got released, so there wasn't that much they had to redo, but still they had to redo the whole design process, and then they came up with this design, which of course is infinitely better than the original, and I'll get to why that is important for this movie a little later on. So what did I like about this movie? First of all, I liked Sonic. Sonic is as Sonic should be. I mean, he is not this edgy teenager thing that Sega has tried to push these last few years, or at least since Sonic 06. I believe it's Sonic 06 or Sonic 07. I can't remember. You know the one, Sonic the Hedgehog is a bad game. But nevertheless, he's not like that Sonic. He's more, let's say, innocent or naive, but is in a cute way. I also really like the other characters in here, especially the Lord of Donuts. I can't remember the character's name. And his interaction with Sonic. And of course, Jim Carrey in here. Now, we haven't seen Jim Carrey in this kind of comedy, or at least in this eccentric role, in a long ass time. And it's good to see him going back to formula, but still taking a new take on this. Now, in a lot of other movies, this take wouldn't work. However, in this movie where we have this cartoony character, it actually fits in quite nicely, and I do appreciate his take on this role, because holy shit is he funny in here, which also kind of brings me to the humor, because the humor for the most part is actually quite good. It made me laugh out loud a lot of times. Just the fact the humor in here didn't resolve itself to just using fart jokes and other cheap ass jokes was actually quite uplifting, because there's a lot of clever humor in here and also a lot of sarcastic humor in here. And I'm a big fan of sarcastic humor because I'm quite a sarcastic person, I guess. But especially interaction between the Donut Lord and especially his girlfriend, the Pretzel Queen, Pretzel Lady. Okay, it's this one here. Their relationship is something that I recognize a lot with the relationship I have with my girlfriend. We also sarcastic to one another a lot of the time, so it just feels more realistic to me, this depiction of a relationship. I also really enjoy all the Easter eggs in here, because there are a lot of Easter eggs, but they're not in your face and they're not important to the main plot. So, if you only know the name Sonic from the name, Sonic the Hedgehog and you just recognize the blue fella, but that is pretty much where your understanding of the character ends, that's okay, because all the references will go over your head, but you're not missing out on the main story, the main plot, the character development, and so on and so forth. They're just there for people who has an understanding of the lore, at least the old lore, to just get a personal reward like Captain America did in the Avengers from 2012 and just go, I understood the reference. And at the end here, I just need to circle back to Sonic's design, because he is very cartoony, he's very sweet and also kind of cute looking, and this has a great effect for not only us to actually give a shit about the character, but also have a connection to Jim Carrey's portrayal, because Jim Carrey's portrayal is the most cartoony portrayal in this movie. Everyone else is more like on board, that is this talking blue hedgehog who can run real fast and just kind of give a realistic portrayal, but it's still also kind of a cartoon movie portrayal they're giving. However, Jim Carrey is full on having fun with this role, just doing a cartoonist antagonist role or portrayal in here, and it just works so well because you have a man who's playing a cartoon and then you have a cartoon who's just there. And it just really works together, and just in general, the GDI in this movie is actually extremely well done, especially the drones in here. Holy shit. But then again, we have seen Transformers, so we know they could do inanimated objects, but even Sonic is very well done. He just seems like he's actually there and present and has soul and, you know, heart and all that schnizzle. And also my jaw kind of hit the floor when I saw the mid-credit scene, or whatever you want to call it. Not that it's something spectacular, but it just gave me so much nostalgia vibes that I couldn't handle it. And again, some people will walk away with just going, it was alright, while others will just go, fuck yeah! And I was just one of those kind of persons. Now that being said, this movie isn't just all fun and dandy, because it is a video game movie and they have a tendency to, you know, kind of suck. And yes, this movie didn't suck, but there was a lot of part in this movie that did suck. First of all, a lot of the action sequences is fun, but they do rely heavily on the Quicksilver idiom. And by that I mean, we have these two scenes from the X-Men Fox universe, whatever we're gonna call it, with Quicksilver, where he's moving really fast and everything is just moving slowly. And this movie does that idea twice. Now, I don't mind that you portray a fast character by making him moving in a normal speed and everyone else moving in a slow speed. I don't mind, because the X-Men movies wasn't the first one to do that either. What I do mind is the execution of those scenes, and they weren't good. I mean, they weren't boring, they were fun. I mean, there were some funny jokes in there, but the sense of speed is not present in there, unfortunately. And if Sonic is one thing, he is fast. And you do see him being fast a lot of times in here, but the portrayal of his speed is not always portrayed that well, and these scenes suffer immensely from it. Other than that, the action scenes are, I guess, fine. There's not much to it. I mean, they're easy to follow along, but they're not as creative as they could have been. Then comes the character interactions, or at least when you have some relationship, not problems, but more like grindings and stuff like that. The justification of those are pish poor. Just a lot of the scenes that need to lay the foundation between our Donut Lord and Sonic's relationship is not that good. About that I mean, they just kind of go from strangers to almost best friends without any defining moments throughout this movie, so it just kind of gets out of the blue and don't really buy that they're good friends. They're just road trip buddies. And this movie relies heavily on their relationship, and unfortunately this movie doesn't really get time to show that their relationship is forming and, you know, blossoming, so you don't really buy it. And there's a lot of more problems in the movie where it just didn't really put enough effort into what it's trying to portray and also what it's trying to set up and pay off later on. And all in all, you just kind of feel like this movie is half-assed, besides that Sonic actually works really well in this movie. So all in all, what I'm gonna say is, in this movie you will get a really well-defined Sonic. You get some fun and believable sarcastic interactions between our main characters. Jim Carrey nails it as a weird Dr. Robotnik. There are a lot of good references and Easter eggs in here who are not mandatory for you to be able to understand the movie. The movie's plot is extremely simple. We have seen it a million times before. We've also seen it a million times done better before. The depiction of speed is not always well done. However, when it is pulled off really well, then it really works. The relationship between the two main characters is unfortunately not portrayed that well. I mean, they interact well with each other, but besides that, there's not much to the relationship. And just in general, it seems like this was kind of an easy cash grab from this movie studio. However, I will still praise the studio for listening to critique from the fans. Now, you shouldn't always listen to the critique from the fans and just give in to the peer pressure from the internet. Don't always do it, but when your fans are right, of course you need to listen to them. And this it's one of those occasions where that design right there would never work. You will never actually kind of fall in love with this character. Whereas this is where the nostalgia will actually work. So, I will say that Sonic the Hedgehog, it is worth watching in cinema. Entertainment guaranteed. Now when all that's said and done, this is actually a very entertaining movie. It has a lot of entertainment value to it, which is basically the reason that you're going to the cinema. I mean, you can even bring your kids in here because it is very kid friendly. And it kind of sets up a sequel, but if it doesn't get a sequel, then you have a fine Sonic movie at least. The only thing that irritates me is that Hollywood is apparently better at making a Sonic story than Sega is at making a Sonic game. That's not good. It also kind of feels like they're throwing shade at Nintendo and their Mushroom Kingdom, but I'm not sure. Maybe? I don't know. Nevertheless, Sonic the Hedgehog. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? And what is your favorite video game movie adaptation? Because there's not a lot good ones out there. I still think that mine, if you're not counting movies, is Castlevania. But if you're counting movies, it probably will be this one or the Pokemon one. You never know. Whatever you think, come and bring me your thoughts. And as always, until I see you in the next video, remember to stay awesome. Bye! Gotta go fast.